morning, everyone. My name is Layne I'm director here at the McDowell Senior Center, and welcome to the 2024 Scam and Shred Day at the Senior Center. Thank you for joining us. Those watching at home, thank you for tuning in to watch us today. I'd like to introduce our first speaker this morning. We do have two speakers today. We have at 10 o'clock with our first presenter, which I'll introduce in a moment, and at 12 o'clock we have Diane Trainor from the North Carolina Seniors Health Insurance Information Program, Senior Medicare Patrol, coming to speak. I think we're ready to kick it off this morning. I have Darcie Layne with AARP that's going to educate you guys today on some scams and fraud issues out there. Please welcome to the stage, Darcie Layne.
Thank you all. Well, first let me say that I'm very happy to be here, and I hope that everybody comes away with at least one thing that they can know about frauds and scams by the time this is all over. I want to start by just saying I volunteer for the mountain region of AARP and have done that for about 8 years. I am a retired school social worker, and I practiced in high schools for 36 years. So my background is in education, which kind of lends itself to something like this. But my goal today, like I said, is to hopefully teach you one or two things and give you some information that you can use as you deal with scammers, because anybody who is in the world today, either on Facebook or has a phone, you know those scammers are there. And for many of us, it's a daily occurrence. That phone call, that email, people trying to pressure you into buying something, sending money, etc. So let me get started by letting you know, first of all, AARP offers a free service, and in your booklets you've got the email address and phone number. So I won't necessarily spend too much time in that, but if you sign up for AARP's Fraud Watch Network, you can get emails approximately 2 a month that keep you up to date on the current scams, what's popular out there, what's going around, and there's no charge. You do not have to belong to AARP or be a paying member. That's just a free service. So I would encourage all of you to go on and get yourself signed up for those fraud alerts. The other thing AARP will offer is they got a hotline. The hotline is available free, and it's available to anyone. I think the number's in there, but I'm going to give it to you one more time. The fraud hotline is for you to contact if you're worried that something's a scam. And you can contact that fraud helpline at 877-908-3360. There are also free online sessions that anyone can take advantage of. You can go online with a trained representative from AARP, and they will help you and discuss any issues you may have if you suspect you've been a victim. So please take advantage of those services. So the next thing I want to talk about is fraud really that big an issue? I mean, everybody's talking about there. I gotta see, is it really? Well, here are some statistics from 2022. The Federal Trade Commission said that people lost $8.8 billion in 2022 alone as they were victimized. The FBI has a figure of $10.3 billion. Frauds and scams are big business. There are a number of people out there that have this, scamming you, as their full-time job, and they're working overtime. So if you think that these are just folks kind of playing around, they're not. They are making money from victimizing people like us. So I'm going to ask a couple, I'm going to do a little informal quiz. You won't be graded. So what age group do you think is the most susceptible to scams? give me an idea. Is it younger people, middle-aged people, older people? Who has
Older people.
Okay, and why do you say that? Why do you think older people are victimized more?
One, I don't know, I think maybe a little more trusting, and I think also somehow they get access to it. We don't, older people don't always have internet and all that kind of stuff, and so they can go through the phone, whatever.
Sure.
Lots of reasons.
Yep. Yep. Anybody else? Well, let me say, you are right and you are wrong. But first let's go with, you are right that our age group tends to be more trusting. We grew up in different times, so we definitely are victimized differently. Kids are victims of scams more often. So let me say the age group of 20 to 29-year-olds, they tend to report more losses. But when I say you're right, we are the age group that loses the most money. So kids may be victimized more, but they're losing a whole lot less than us. The losses for 70-plus-year-olds, we're losing on average maybe over $1,000, where young people are losing maybe half of that amount. So kids may be victimized more, but we got more money to lose. But that's another reason that scammers pick on people our age. We tend to have some savings. We're the group that's worked our whole life, that has scrimped and saved and planned for a retirement, which is a wonderful thing, but it also makes us more vulnerable because we oftentimes have more to lose than somebody who's younger than us. They don't have a mortgage that they can pull money out of, they don't have maybe a savings account or a retirement or a pension or Social Security. So it's important for all of us to be vigilant. So let's start and talk a little bit about how we can be vigilant, how we can protect ourselves. All right, so there is fraud and there is exploitation. Those are two different words, but exploitation could be those kind of awful stories you read about where someone's caregiver or someone's neighbor who comes in to do their grocery shopping gets a hold of their credit card or maybe walks in and takes something from their house. So anybody can be exploited. I shouldn't say we as just older adults. Anyone can be exploited. Fraudsters are different though. Fraudsters set out to steal from you, whether it's your identity, whether it's your money, whether it's your good name. They have their job, their role is to make an effort to take that from you. And they want to deceive and they want to gain something from you. So, anybody think of some examples of of scams out there? Give me some scams you've maybe heard about, even if you don't know them firsthand.
I had a scam from my bank. Somebody from my bank, they called up and said, do you want to give $5,000 to this person? And I said, no. And they arrested her on the spot. So it was very good.
So financial scams. Yep, absolutely. Someone calls, they say they're from your bank, or they could say that, I know hospitals now, you'll get billed, and they will call you and say, if you pay your bill up front, we're going to give you a discount. And I got to say, at my place where I go, it's legitimate. But it's not always legitimate, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you know when it's legitimate and how you protect yourself. So, yep. So I'm going to talk about, there's something called the ether, and scammers rely on getting us in the ether. So, let me see if I can explain. Oh, I know. One example for me is buying a car. How many of you have bought a car in your lifetime? Yeah. So, do you remember, I say remember because I haven't bought a car in like 12 years, so it's been a while for me. I don't like to buy cars, but you remember that feeling when you're at the car dealership and that man or woman is talking to you and they're telling you, you know, I've got just what you want, it's the last one on the lot, I got 3 or 4 other people looking at it, it is not gonna last, I don't want to pressure you, but, and do any of you remember feeling that pressure at the car dealership where you're thinking, oh shoot, I got to do this. And then the guy he sees you and then he says, oh, and by the way, I need to get 30 cars by the end of the month, and if you buy this one, I'm going to knock off my commission. I'm going to take that off and just give you that deal. Well, as this person talks, we can get in the ether, which is a scammer term, and what it means is you get into a sort of heightened state, and it blocks the logic in your brain. And I'm not making this up. This is like a legitimate, real thing. Our brains can be confused, whether that's through fear, through excitement, through romance, but going into the ether is what con artists rely on. That you are going to be so caught up in this deal, in this thing that's only going to last X amount of time, that you are going to make a decision on that spur of the moment and live to regret it. So, first thing is, one thing to remember is, if you can't wait 24 hours to either buy it or claim it or give that information, if you can't wait 24 hours to do that, it's probably a scam. If it's a good deal today, it's still going to be a good deal tomorrow when you go do your research, look up the company or the person or the blue book value of that car. Don't do anything right away. So I call that sort of the 24-hour rule. Don't make a decision if you haven't given yourself enough time to think about it, to weigh the good and the bad. Things like timeshares, annuities. Can anybody else think of examples of things that people might be pressured to buy? Anyone?
Medicare stuff.
Say,
Medicare stuff.
Medicare stuff, sure. And I think your next person is going to talk more about that. But yes, absolutely. That person on the phone that says, I've got a great Medicare supplement for you, and boom, you need to buy it now, and it's going to take care of all your needs. Absolutely, that's a great example. Medicare is one, and yep, they're up there.
Life insurance, life insurance.
Yes, life insurance. Don't you want your loved ones to have something when you go? Don't you want to leave them secure? They play on your guilt, they play on your fear, they take all the emotions, and that's the other thing they do. They kind of just get in your head a little bit, and they're good at it. So, yep, life insurance is another one. If that policy is still going to be there the next day. So, yep. All right, so let's talk a little bit about imposter scams. We'll start with that one. Somebody tell me what an imposter scam might be. You know, what does that mean, imposter scam?
We're calling you from Social Security.
Oh, there you go. Yep. It's when the scammer pretends to be somebody you trust to to convince you to send your money or your personal information. Yep. And the Federal Trade Commission says that is the #1 type of scam that gets the most complaints by consumers. So imposter scams are huge. So let's start with, let's see. Well, we've talked about the losses. So anybody ever had one of those scams where somebody calls and says they're from a government agency? Like the police, the FBI, the IRS. Anybody get those? Yep. And police, did you say? What kind of calls do you get from the police? What do they say?
They're saying if you don't get in touch with us, we're gonna put you in jail. I mean,
Yep, could be we're gonna lock you up. Could be you have an unpaid parking ticket, and if you don't give us your, pay this right away, give us your information over the phone. And again, it goes back to the 24-hour rule. You say, I'm gonna take care of this, I'll get back to you, and you hang up the phone. The other thing you do is, if you suspect it might be legitimate, you say, I'm gonna give you a call back. And you hang up, and you look up the number, the legitimate number of your police department or whoever it is that said they called, and you call them back at that number. You don't rely on a number that a scammer gives you. So that's another thing to remember is don't call back at a number given to you by a scammer. It's easy to get off the phone, find the correct number, call back, and I can assure you when you call back, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, nope, wasn't us. So keep that in mind too. And
About all these calls you get and they don't talk to you.
say that again.
I said, what about all these calls that you get on the telephone and nobody ever answers on the other end?
Oh, and where they want you to just say something like, hello, is anybody there? Can I help you? Yes?
yes.
And what's the best thing to do if that happens?
Hang up.
Hang up. Hang up.
That's what I normally do.
Yep. And if it's legitimate and they have real business with you, they're gonna call you back. Yep, but you're right, because your tendency is to say, who's there? Can I help you? And the other thing is, with artificial intelligence now, people's voices can be imitated very easily. And let's talk for a minute about one of the scams it's called the grandchild scam, where you get a call and someone pretending to be a grandchild, oh, Graham, you gotta help me. I'm in jail and you gotta send money or you gotta get this amount. And people's voices can be duplicated, so it can sound like the person who they say they are. So that's another example of I'm gonna be right there, I'm gonna help you, son. And you hang up and you call the person and you find out if they're legitimately in trouble. And you verify first. You don't ever get caught up in the ether of the emotional part of your brain taking over and the rational part of your brain falls for a scam. Yep. Okay, let's see what else. All right, Social Security. Sometimes you can get those robocalls where it's a recording and the recording will say, hello, this is the Social Security Administration. We need you to call back at a blah, blah, blah number. Your account has been frozen, or there's an issue with your account, whatever it is. Whenever you're told to call back at a certain number, you double check the number and you look up the number for Social Security and you call that number. You never, ever, ever call back a number given to you by someone else on the phone. And you can get live calls. Sometimes you get people that are actually there saying, hello, I just need to verify and update your Social Security information. We are going to be giving you a cost of living increase, but unless I verify this, I won't be able to give that to you. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that big cost of living increase. I'm going to call you back. And you hang up the phone, and if you think there's any truth to it, you call back at the legitimate number. Email, another way. They'll scam you, and scammers can make emails look so legitimate. They look like it's gotta be true, because it's got that government seal on there, and it's red, white, and blue, and you'll get an email saying, whatever, whatever personal information they want to steal from you, they'll ask in this email for you to send it. And again, never, never, never. And the other thing with those emails is there might be an attachment that says, we need you to fill out this form to update your information. As soon as you click on that attachment, you have given those scammers access to your information on your computer for them to burrow in and find websites, passwords, look up your history, gain personal information, who's been emailing you, that they can then use when they make that call and say, this is your grandson Bobby calling and I'm in jail, because they got into your computer and found out you had a grandson named Bobby. So if there's an attachment and a link, don't click it. The other thing is Social Security. They're never going to call you. They're not going to do it. Never, ever, ever. They don't reach out. They don't call. If they need to reach you, like every year, for those of us on Social Security, every year I get at the end of the year a statement, and it says, we have figured out your Social Security for next year, and we log into your account if you want to know what it's going to be. So, perfect. I go to my socialsecurity.gov website, and I use my password, and I log in, and I get legitimate information about my Social Security. I would never click on a link on a site that says they have that information right there. They don't. You have to get out of that email and get back on and log into your Social Security account. Take care of that, because that's one scammers love, that we have a monthly income that the government is paying us, and they would sure love to get their hands on it, because they would find all kinds of things to do with your money. So keep that one in mind. So we got IRS, government grants. I don't think we get this one as much, but there's also one that says, you'll see something on Facebook that's going to say the government is giving you free money. All you have to do is let us process it. Well, I think most of us are pretty good. We have been around the block a few times. We know that if you're getting promised free money, there isn't anything. Yeah, there's no free money. Sadly, there isn't. Government lotteries, that's another one. You'll get a call from someone who says that they're working for the government, and all you need to do is send this information to claim your government prize. Well, no. Sadly, no. Trying to think what other imposters we have. We got the government, and I think that might be good. Okay, let's put away that one. But don't worry, there are more. What about things like Amazon? People use Amazon? So if you're an Amazon user, that's another one you have to be careful, because you will get a notice saying your Amazon package is ready to be delivered. We just need, something's wrong with the address or something, and you need to contact us so that we can get the correct information to deliver your package. And they may say they're from Amazon, they may say they're from FedEx, whoever. If you get something, be especially aware of, did I even order a package? That's usually a good clue, because there will be times where you will go, I don't remember ordering something from Amazon. And guess what? You probably didn't. So there are ways to go into it with your Amazon account, you log in, you can verify your history and see if you did order something. Because I do have to say there are times I forget sometimes when I ordered something, but it's easy to check and it's easy to do that in a way that's going to protect you. And never make any payments online. So, for example, like Amazon, that item you bought, the price went up and we're going to ship it to you right away, but we just need $3.25, let's say. So you go, oh, well that's no big deal. This can't be a scam. It's only $3.25. Sure. Give them your credit card info and guess what? Oh, the next charge is $187. And the next charge is that's another thing that scammers do. They start small, and when they have your info, they'll start small and make a charge. And if you're going through your monthly bill, you might not even notice it. You'll just think, oh, $1.87, that's weird, but oh well. So any charges, when you check your monthly statement, any charge that doesn't look right, no matter what amount, question it, because it could be the start of a scammer getting your information. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is relationship scams. Many of us, once I retired, I know I started doing things like I would join meetup groups or a hiking group or solo travelers, because those are my interests. So I go on and join sites like that, which can be perfectly legitimate. But for some of us, that is how scammers reach us. And I know I have had on Facebook Messenger, I have had things that say, hey, I noticed your profile on Facebook. I think we have a lot of stuff in common. Would you like to talk? And you think, oh, how nice. And you'll look at their picture and they'll be kind of older like me, and I'll think, oh, well, that's nice. Well, I wish it was. But 9 times out of 10, it's not. Because this person is finding a way to start a friendship with you that is ultimately going to lead to you losing a lot of money. I'll tell you a brief story. We have dear friends, and their daughter, who is about 41, 42, is divorced. And she's wanted to go on, she went on like Match.com and just some other dating sites. And the sites are often legitimate when you go on them. But what happens is there are also people on there who are just looking for victims. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Jenny just happened to be 40. So she goes on this site and she starts communicating with this young man, and she's thinking, oh, he sounds so nice, and talks about his family and how he's caring for his elderly mother. Well, before too long, his elderly mother has to go into the hospital, and there's a problem with her insurance, and if Jenny could just send $5,000, he will pay her right back once the insurance money comes through. Well, Jenny sent some money, and of course, Then the guy needed a little more money and et cetera. And she caught on eventually, but not before she lost a good chunk of money. And then the next scam was someone saying they were the one in the hospital and sent her photographs, actual photographs of their injuries. So she, because she's a young person, knew how to go on Google Images and finds out she can Google this picture, and it's a photograph of some guy on the, what's that bike race? The Tour de France. It's some Tour de France racer who's got in a bike accident. And so he sent her this picture saying, oh, I'm injured and I just need, anyway, I could go on and on. But the gist of the story is many of these relationships that start out seeming nice and friendly and will maybe do some things, aren't all of that. So you've got to be careful with anyone you meet online. And I say that, and also saying, my son is dating a woman for over a year that he met online. I have a cousin who married a man she met online. So that's what makes it even harder, because you can meet people and they can be nice people and they can be good people, but you can't be too trusting, and you should never ever send anyone money. And that's the problem with us. We're nice, we're kind, we want to do good things, but it's easy to be victimized. So watch out for Facebook, and watch out for being asked for personal information online. All right, let me see. Anything else that people want to say about online relationships? Has anyone ever felt like someone might have been trying to get information from them using that as a way to scam? No? Good. Good, because I know I've had a few of those where just a random stranger has sent me you look like such a nice person, let's start chatting. And delete, delete, delete. All right. So there's relationships. And some of the red flags in those also. When you meet this person on Facebook and they say, oh, let's start talking via email, or let's start talking on the phone. When that person moves to another way to communicate with you, be a little skeptical. Also, that person who says, I just think there's a connection here. You've known them, what, 2 weeks? I just feel like there's really something here. I think we could really be a team. Well, no. Next thing, never, never, never agree to meet in person. Unless, give it a year, give it a very, very long time. And of course, you never send money, you never send cryptocurrency, which is another way scammers are making money. But what about stolen identity? Has anybody ever been a victim? And, well, we've all been victims, but anyone had their identity compromised, like lost a credit card, or someone opened an account in your name? No? Okay. That's rare, because usually in a group even this size, there's at least one of us who will have been a victim of that. But scammers want to have our information. So let me just read this. Identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, your name, social security number, and bank account. So people, you can have your money stolen from your account, you can have credit cards opened in your name, and you become responsible for those charges. So there are a number of ways that you can be a victim of that. Someone can get your Social Security number and apply for benefits under your name. So you've got to be careful with your identity. That reminds me of another. So one of the other volunteers here was telling me that she never, ever, ever writes a check and leaves it for the mailman to pick up. You know, you used to be able to write a check to pay your bill, and you'd put it in your mailbox or hang it there, and the postman would pick it up. Because now scammers are going into people's mailboxes and taking those checks and erasing, putting their name, putting a different amount, and cashing them. Apparently, there's something called a gel pen. If you write your checks in a gel pen, they can't be erased. I don't know why, I don't know how it works, I just know that it does. So, one tip, if you're writing checks, use a gel pen. Other thing is, if you're writing checks, do not ever put them out to be collected by the mailman. Take them to the post office. Another way scammers get in is, I don't know how many of you belong to a gym, but if you go to a gym, there's in the parking lot, most people, scammers know, most people leave their wallets there because they don't want to take it in and put it in the gym locker. So if you're going to be somewhere like a gym or somewhere where you don't need your purse or wallet, be careful. Hiking, that's the other one. You go to those parking lots and you're going to go hiking, you're not going to take your purse with you, so you kind of bury it underneath your stuff in the back of the car and you go off to hike. I don't know. The number of parking lots that I read about on the Blue Ridge Parkway that people report they have had their stuff stolen is pretty remarkable. So be careful with leaving wallets, purses, anything valuable in your car when you're getting out. Okay, yep, mailboxes. Oh, and not just checks in mailboxes. If you leave things to be put out in the mail, scammers can take that and just get your personal information. So even if it's not a check, they might get an account number or something that they can use down the road to scam you. So be careful what you're putting in your mailbox for somebody to come and pick up. Let me see how we do it. Okay. Okay. Oh, I know. So here's another. I feel like I'm kind of at that part of the presentation where I'm just going, oh, I gotta remember to say this. Things like passwords. Do people have like a password on their phone? Or your laptop or your iPad? I know my little phone, you could put a password on it. I never bothered. I thought, who's gonna want this? So my son, who lives very far away but was home for a visit, looked at my phone and said, Mom, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? You don't have a password on your phone. And I said, no. Do you know what could happen? All somebody has to do is pick up your phone, scroll through it, they can get your whole history. Even if they don't do anything with it that minute, they still know a whole lot about you that you wouldn't want strangers to know. So I encourage all of you, put a password on your phone. Mine's just like a little 4 digits, and so before I can even make a call or use my phone, I gotta type in a password. So live and learn, but that's an easy thing to do to protect yourself. And the same thing with your laptop, with your iPad, whatever devices you have, it's easy to put a passcode on them. That way, if they're lost or stolen, it gives you an extra layer of protection. Recycling and trashing things. There's a shredding event here today, and I hope that everybody is taking advantage of that. If not today, at some point in time. I volunteer sometimes at shredding events with AARP, and I had a woman about a month ago. Her trunk had, swear to God, 20 boxes of shredding. And she said, well, they go back to 1983, but I thought it was time to get rid of it. And I said, you bet it is. But in a good way, because you know how you used to have to save your medical bills and you always kept those statements and every month your credit card bill, before we did stuff online, you would get a monthly everything. Well, she finally went through her file cabinet and got rid of it all. And I encourage all of you to do that. Anything that has information that a scammer could use, take it and get it shredded. Events like this are often free now, so you don't have to pay to get rid of that stuff, and somebody's going to take it away, and scammers can't get it. So, yeah.
Should we save stuff? I've heard like 5 or 7 years, whatever.
Tax returns. I have heard the same thing about tax returns, and I still save my tax returns. Many of us, though, have them online or in the cloud. So I guess technically, depending on whether you go to someone to have your taxes done or you do them yourself, that might be the question. But yeah, it's not going to hurt to save them for 5 years, because that's a small amount of information, really. It's not like cabinets and cabinets of stuff. And the point is, save it if you want to save it. But when it's time to get rid of it smart. Get rid of it by shredding it. Don't just ever throw it out in your trash when you decide you don't need it anymore. Let's see. Oh, I know. Someone told me that they bought a new mailbox, and they bought a locking mailbox. And again, I don't feel I need that just because my mailbox happens to be on my porch and our mailman has to walk up like 20 steps to get to it. Scammers are going to go for much easier mailboxes than mine. But if you're concerned about someone getting to your mail, if it's right on the street and you read all the time about cars driving by, opening mailboxes, going down the road, it's easy and not hugely expensive to buy a locking mailbox. You know, it just has a little slat to put the mail in, but you need a key when you want to get your mail out. So that's just another precaution you can take if it will make you feel safer. Oh, we haven't even started on credit reports. You are eligible to get a free credit report every year. And I'm not sure which one, but yes. And I think it's in one of these books, the addresses. I know it's in one of your handouts. So the address you need to get your free credit reports. And you can get them from all three: Equifax, Experian, and, well, we all know there are 3 big ones, and you're entitled to a free one every year. And I encourage people to take advantage of that service, because it will tell you if anything has changed with your credit score. Sometimes scammers can get into our credit stuff without us knowing. So you request that free report. It will tell you what's happened with your credit reports and let you know if there's anything you need to be concerned about. Let's see. Oh, public Wi-Fi. How many people, and you don't have to raise your hand, but how many of us go travel maybe and you're in an airport and you're sitting around, you got 2 hours before the flight, and sign says, oh, free airport Wi-Fi, and you log on and it doesn't cost you anything. And not just at airports, I guess. I don't drink coffee, so I don't use Wi-Fi in coffee shops, but a lot of people do. But that's another thing to be aware of. if you are somewhere with public Wi-Fi, nice free service, but it also means scammers can get into your stuff. You're kind of more vulnerable. So if you're using public Wi-Fi, be careful. Don't make purchases. Don't access your bank accounts while you're on that public Wi-Fi, because scammers can get into that if it's up there and you're on a public network. Another tidbit is something called two-factor authorization. Do people know what two-factor authorization means? Probably some of you do, but because I'm standing here, I'm going to tell you again. When for example, AARP, when I log into my AARP account, I put in my name and I put in a password, but it doesn't take me to AARP right away. Instead, it says, we're going to send you a code. Do you want it texted, emailed, or phoned? And I click and it sends me a text, and I have to put in 6 numbers before I can get into my AARP account. That is two-factor authorization. It means it's not enough to just know your password. You also need to receive this code so we know it's coming on one of your devices. So it recognizes my phone as my second way. Oh, I know. For example, my husband and I have a couple of retirement accounts that we have saved through our careers. So if I want to go online to Vanguard, I will go on the website, I'll log into Vanguard. Vanguard will never tell me anything until I enter the code they send. So if you have financial accounts, bank accounts, any account you want to give an extra level of security to, two-factor authorization. The site, the company, like I said, Vanguard for mutual funds. I call Vanguard, or you can call if you have money somewhere, your bank, I want two-factor authorization. And they will give you that extra layer of security. It doesn't cost anything, but it keeps your stuff a little bit safer. Let's see. Okay, identity theft, check. Oh, I know, you were mentioning, so even though I said I know it's in one of those brochures, just your credit, your annual report, it's got a really hard website, annualcreditreport.com. I know, how hard. But if you want your yearly report, you type in annualcreditreport.com, all one word, and they will get you a copy. The other site is identitytheft.gov. Identitytheft, all one word, .gov. So, 2 places if you want to get those reports. I guess we all know about lottery scams. We kind of talked about that. So, let me see. Can anybody think of questions, something you were hoping to learn more about that maybe I didn't cover, or something I'm forgetting? Because I'm learning as I go in this process. Yes?
If you do get scammed, what should you do?
There you go. There are a couple things you can do. One, let me say, let me get that. AARP has information. So I'm going to give you a couple of things about that. So you can report scams through AARP there's a helpline at 877-908-3360. You can also And I'm pretty sure it's in there also. But you can also, I mentioned before that AARP does a 1-hour virtual, so online session for anyone who has been the victim of a scam or is concerned that they might be in the middle of a scam. And if you go to AARP.org/fraud support. That's AARP.org/fraud support. They have trained folks that will help. And there are a couple of other numbers I'm going to give you. The North Carolina Attorney General's office is always available to help to report scams. So you can sign up for information and scam alerts. And if you want to contact the Department of Justice, let me give you the Department of Justice. If you want to report a scam, you are going to go to NCDOJ or North Carolina Department of Justice.gov. And there's also a phone number. So if you want to call the Attorney General's office, you can do that at 1-877-566-7226. And the Attorney General's office is a great resource because like AARP, they put out periodic bulletins. You can get on their website and they will keep you updated on the latest frauds and scams that are going around town. And anything else that people want to know?
I have a question about PayPal.
Yes.
To pay bills with PayPal?
Yeah. PayPal is a legitimate site. I'm not a big fan because their database is a little more public than I would like. Like you could look and see who else is paying something on PayPal. I don't like the lack of privacy, but having said that, it is a legitimate site, but just know it's one more place that you're putting your information out. And I know I'm kind of an old fuddy-duddy in some ways, you know what I mean? Because it's so common. PayPal, Venmo, all of those things. I think just be careful and know before you do get involved with them. Read all their rules and their privacy things and look and see how you can have the most private experience.
The other thing too is about, I get tons of stuff on my phone.
Yes.
Tons of stuff on my phone.
Yeah.
Do I just delete it or I don't click on any of it.
Right. You typically you delete it, but you probably also want to block the caller.
Block the caller.
Yep, and there's a button that says block caller. You can also go in your settings, and I would need my 34-year-old son to actually explain this to you. There's a spot you can go in that will actually silence any call you receive from someone who's not in your contact list. So that's helpful to me because then I will see the call, but it'll come up as silence, and I can go back and look at Google that phone number and see if it's a legitimate call. Like it might be Mission Hospital calling or something. And then I say, oh, okay, that's legit, and I'll call them back. But silencing unknown calls will help too. Thanks for the questions. And thank you all for your attention. And like I said, I'll be around if you have other questions or want to pick up more info. Thanks.
We appreciate Darcie Layne for being here with AARP, talking about frauds and scams. Please give her one more round. And we'll be up with our next presenter in just a few moments. Our next speaker today for the McDowell 2024 Scam and Shred event is someone I've known for quite a while. Her name is Diane Trainor. She works for North Carolina Seniors Health Insurance Information Program with the S&P program, and she's going to explain what that means here today. Please welcome Diane Trainor.
Thank you, Layne, and thank you, Brenda Minosa, for making all of this possible today. Some of you may have noticed when you came into the lobby, I had a display table, and some of you stopped by and got some information about Medicare scams and fraud. The same information is in the packet that was just passed out to you. If any of you all did not get a packet, they're up here at the registration table. So if you would get one, that would be nice so that you can follow along with what I'm going to be presenting. I do represent SHIP, the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. Layne is a coordinator, a Medicare coordinator for McDowell County. So he's right here in this building. If you have any questions about Medicare or your supplement, please see him. SHIP is a free service that's offered. This is in lieu of watching TV and seeing all these famous stars waving their hands and talking about Medicare. These are ads by insurance companies that want you to take your supplemental insurance with them. They are very legitimate ads. However, they don't tell you what other things are offered, what other companies might offer you that would cost you less money. SHIP is a free service through the North Carolina Department of Insurance. Layne has information on all of the supplemental companies that would help to save you some money. All states have SHIP offices, and it is a free service. I would like to ask you today, if you are not a Medicare recipient and you have gotten this information that I just handed out, if you know a family member or a friend who does receive Medicare, if you would please share this information with them. Also, regarding just general scams and fraud, the senior population is the most targeted population for scams and fraud throughout the United States, and most of them rely on telephone calls. I worry about people who are homebound. You all obviously are not, and you get out and you get this information. But if you have friends or family that are homebound, if you would share this information with them, just don't ever give your personal information to anybody who calls you on the phone. That's the number one tip that I think anybody that's speaking with you about scams and fraud would give you. Anytime your phone rings and somebody is asking for your personal information, hang up the phone. Now, most of you probably were raised in nice families that taught you to have nice manners. I don't know that kids are taught manners anymore, but for those of you who were fortunate enough to grow up in a home where manners were important, I want you to forget about your telephone etiquette. If somebody calls you on the phone and starts asking you your personal information, hang up the phone. Just hang up. And as I said, this is not something that probably you were taught to do. It was very rude. Scam artists don't care about manners. all they're interested in is scanning you and getting your personal information. So just remember that, just hang up the phone. And please share this information with friends or family that don't get out to get this information. My goal today is to impress upon you that Medicare is losing $68 billion a year. $68 billion a year from scams and fraud. And also I want to educate you on how you, as a Medicare beneficiary, can stop this fraud. And it is up to every individual Medicare recipient to do this. There are 60 million Medicare beneficiaries throughout the United States. So don't let that scare you away. You are just as important as any of the other 60 million Medicare recipients. I want you to think of your Medicare card for just a moment. Think of it as a credit card. You know, when you use a credit card, you go into a store, you purchase an item, I'm going to say it costs $50. At the end of the month, you get a statement from your credit card company. And you look down through it, well, there's the item you purchased for $50. You keep going down and you see an item from a store for $100 that you did not purchase. That's a mistake. That does not belong to you. Now, if you're like most people, you're going to fall all over yourself to get to the phone, to call your credit card company and say to them, there's a mistake on my statement. We need to rectify it. Your Medicare summary notice or your explanation of benefits that you receive in the mail after you've been to the doctor or the hospital or purchased a wheelchair, a walker, anything that Medicare pays for. You get a statement and it shows what the date of service, it shows who has the name of the provider, and then it shows how much Medicare was charged, how much Medicare paid. Now, remember, this is not a bill, and it states very plainly because it might show that you do owe some money. Do not pay anybody anything based on the Medicare summary notice. It is just a notice to let you know that Medicare has paid for this service or this product. You are the only person that receives the Medicare summary notice. It doesn't go to your doctor or the hospital or anywhere else. It goes directly to you. The process that Medicare has for paying for claims is, of course, all automated because there are millions of claims every single day that are sent to Medicare. So there's no way that they can do it other than automated. Scam artists are so smart. They know how to submit a claim to Medicare. They know all of the ins and outs, all of the codes and everything. They submit a claim to Medicare. It goes through the process. At the end of the process, a check is written. The check either goes to the legitimate doctor, hospital, whatever, but it also goes to the scam artist who has submitted that claim. Now, this is what I want you to remember. the Medicare summary notice or the explanation of benefits, either one of those items, is sent to you at that time, you are the only person that gets that information. Therefore, you're the only person that knows that your Medicare account has been defrauded. If you do not open your Medicare summary notice and look at that and see, that does not belong to me. I did not go to that doctor. That's just not mine. If you don't personally report that mistake, it goes unnoticed and Medicare loses that money. This is why you absolutely must open your summary notice and read it. I have had a couple of experiences. I work out of my home in Asheville, and I service Western North Carolina. I go to a lot of very remote locations. Some of them aren't even, I can't even get there using my GPS. That's how remote they are back in the mountains. I went to one recently in Madison County, way out in the country. And the director of that center showed me her husband's Medicare summary notice that he had just received. There was a charge on that for $3,900 for urinary catheters. She brought that to me to show me that that charge, of course, was not her husband's. And because I went to her facility every year, she was familiar with SHIP and the Senior Medicare Patrol, and she knew how to report that $3,900, which she had already done. When I got back home to Asheville that same day, I had been working with the SHIP coordinator in Buncombe County, and she had called and asked me if I would go with her that same day to a retirement facility in Asheville that a gentleman had called and said he had a claim on his Medicare summary notice that didn't belong to him and he needed help in reporting it. I told her, of course, that I could not go with her that day because I was going to Madison County, but when I got back, I wanted to check with her to see how things went. And she said to me, this gentleman has a charge on his Medicare summary notice of $3,900 for urinary catheters. Okay, that was 2 examples in one day that I personally found. It's in just a second. If those 2 people, 2 Medicare beneficiaries, had not opened their summary notice, looked at it, and found that mistake, it would have gone unnoticed. And the scam artist, who's usually located in another country, would have gotten that much money to pocket and use for whatever scam artists use their stealing money for. That's why it's urgent that you do open it and look at it. Now, and remember, this is not a bill. You never pay any balance that's showing that is due on the Medicare summary notice. The other thing you need to watch for is if you go to a medical equipment company and you have a prescription for a wheelchair, and I just use this example, I don't know how much wheelchairs cost, but You've got your doctor's prescription, you've got your Medicare card, you give them your card to pay for the wheelchair. Okay, let's say the wheelchair costs $300. When you get your Medicare summary notice, you can open it and look at it, and that medical equipment company has charged Medicare $600 instead of $300. And this happens. That is a loss of $300 that Medicare has to endure. That's part of the $68 billion that they lose every year. So if you do not report that, that money is gone. That's $300 more than you should have been charged. Reporting is easy. Reporting is done through the North Carolina Department of Insurance, the SHIP program, 855-408-1212. As I said, that number goes to the Department of Insurance. When you call, it is an automated call. You want the health insurance. I think it's either 2 or 3. And you will be transferred to the SHIP office. So I want you to please remember 3 things that you need to do. You need to protect your identity. Hang up the phone if anyone calls you and asks for your personal information. Medicare, Social Security will never, ever call you on the phone. So if somebody calls and says they're calling from Medicare, hang up the phone. They will not ever call you. Protect yourself on your computer from things that if it just doesn't look right, just delete it. Protect your identity. I want you to look for mistakes on the Medicare summary notice, and please report it. Remember, if you do not report these mistakes, it's as though it never happened. And if every Medicare beneficiary would report even, $100 mistake, with 60 million Medicare recipients, that's a lot of money. And it would help to alleviate this tremendous amount of money that's going to the frauds and scams. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the chance to be here today and talk with you all. And please remember that Medicare belongs to you, and if you don't keep it strong, it can't last forever. So please do that for us. Are there any questions or comments about scams and fraud? Yes.
I had that capital
Yes.
$3,900. I reported it, and then the next summary came out. 3 of them were gone, but they still had 1. Why would there still be 1?
So the second summary, you reported the first one.
Reported the first one.
Okay, and evidently, okay, this lady got 2, she reported the catheter scam, $3,900. Okay, and then she got her next summary notice, and it was on there again.
But only 1, not the 3,900. They erased 3 of them, but the 1.
Okay, they erased 3 of the catheters, but they left 1 on. Okay, then you definitely needed to report that again. Yes, anytime there's anything on there that's not right, you report it.
Do you know where that was from? Was it Tennessee or Kentucky or something like that?
I don't know. A lot of these scams are from people even outside of the country. But that particular scam is a nationwide scam. It's in all states now. So but thank you for reporting the first one. And if you'll report the second one to the SHIP office in Raleigh, this number that I gave you goes to the SHIP office. They're there Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. They have a call center that they can answer any questions you might have about Medicare or your supplement. They also will take all information about scams and fraud. If you do not report it, it's like it never happened. Okay, thank you all very, very much for your time and your attention. I appreciate it.
I'd just like to say a big thank you to our two presenters here today, Darcie Layne with our earlier presentation, and also Diane Trainor from the North Carolina SHIP. We appreciate their valuable knowledge, and I'd like to say thank you for those watching at home. Thank you for participating with us today.